Hey, what's up, mortals? Zigzag here, and welcome to part 9 of What If Naruto Was Not Made a Jinchuriki, the debut story by our writer AxleBoost. Its official title is Life Without Kurama, and Axel has given us permission to use it on the channel. Links to the original fanfiction postings will be in the description. As always, sit back and relax, you're in for a treat. Chapter 9, Echoes, Part 2. This video was sponsored by Honey. Honey is a free browser add-on available on Google, Opera, Firefox, Safari. If it's a browser, it has Honey. Honey automatically saves you money when you check out on sites like Amazon, Papa John's, and Kohl's. Wherever you shop, there's a good chance that Honey can save you money. All you have to do when you're checking out is click that little orange button and it will find discount codes for you. It takes 2 clicks to install Honey. Anytime you check out, if there is a coupon code, Honey will find it. And if there's not a coupon code, you can rest assured that you're getting the best price possible. If you install Honey right now, you can save so much money on your online shopping, while doing absolutely nothing. There's no reason not to install Honey. It takes 2 clicks, 10 million people use it, and it has 100,000 5-star reviews. Unless you hate money, you should install Honey. Use the link in the description to start saving money now. A week had passed since Sasuke had moved into the Hokage's household. Just as Minato had predicted in his initial discussion with Kushina, the Leaf Village Council and the general public hadn't taken well to their idea. The formal request to adopt Sasuke Uchiha became one of much debate for the following couple of weeks. Hiruzen in particular seemed to feel for the lone survivor of the massacre, but could not support Minato and Kushina's decision. In a private chat with Minato, he stated that although he recognized how intervening in Sasuke's life in this way might help him from straying down a darker path, the political optics were unfavorable. It was during this chat that Minato stood behind his desk, lips pursed in thought, taking in all that his predecessor had to say. He'd thought back to that day when he and Kushina were almost taken from Naruto, who would have ended up in the same circumstance as Sasuke. Deep down, he already knew his answer. There was no way he could abandon Sasuke. Hiruzen's suggestion of stopping by every so often to check on him wouldn't suffice. How in the world could he be expected to condemn this child to solitude? An occasional visitor wouldn't do. Sasuke needed more. He needed something to replace the hole in his life. The indelible image of a broken and pleading Itachi, however fleeting it might have been, remained at the forefront of Minato's memory.
Surely you must understand how this will look, Minato,
the third continued. Minato tuned back in halfway through his explanation, his mind racing, until at last he settled on a staunch refusal of the advice.
I do, third,
Minato said.
But even so, I'll be making the preparations as soon as possible.
Hiruzen sighed and covered his face with his hands. Minato continued.
I understand that the Uchiha are not the brightest spot in the Leaf's history. I realized that my and Kushina's adoption of Sasuke could raise red flags with the other villages, as well as here at home. They may think that this was a power play, orchestrated to groom a young Uchiha with weaker ties to his brethren, whom I could then mold into a loyal military asset for the village's benefit. Knowing all of this, I still don't care. I won't become the kind of Hokage who turns his back on any of his people. Sasuke is one of our own, so I'll do what I can for him.
Hiruzen nodded, a grim frown on his face.
You're absolutely certain about this? I am.
Minato held the third Hokage's gaze for several uncomfortable seconds. Seeing that he did not waver, Hiruzen gave him a dismissive gesture.
Very well. If your mind's made up, then I will support you in this.
The Leaf Elder turned and started towards the door.
Thank you, Lord Third,
Minato said. He rested against his desk, examining the paperwork awaiting his signature.
Trust me, I'll make this work. If anyone can, it's most certainly you,
Hiruzen said before exiting the room. In the days following their exchange, Minato fought to make the adoption happen, every bit as much for himself as for Kushina. His wife wanted to repay a debt to her friend. It was a noble move on her part, and he had a debt of his own to repay to Itachi. He'd failed the young man once already. Maybe this way he could fulfill his promise to watch over Sasuke, albeit in a more direct way than intended. The hunt for Danzo had run cold, as expected. He was last detected near a hot spring close to the border of the Land of Fire and the village hidden in the grass. Kakashi and his dogs had lost Danzo's scent, but they suspected he travelled in the direction of Tenchi Bridge. The reason why he would have taken such a route was unknown, but Minato instructed two Anbu to continue searching for him around there. Maybe something would turn up. Light from the setting sun filtered through the window as Minato and his family sat down to dinner. Sasuke awkwardly settled into his seat across from Naruto. The Hokage's son observed him with an uncertain gaze. Averting his eyes at first, Sasuke soon drummed up the courage to look up again and smile. Minato eyed the new addition to the family across the table. It seemed Sasuke and Naruto were having trouble getting used to going from being classmates to legal siblings. Understandable, but it worried him. He hoped they would be able to warm up to each other, or at least remain civil.
Well,
Kushina said, snapping him out of his thoughts.
Shall we dig in?
The smile washed away all of his lingering worries, and he reached to pick up his pair of chopsticks. When dinner was over, Kushina and Naruto took everyone's dishes to the kitchen. Earlier that evening, Minato had asked his wife to allow him time alone with Sasuke to try to bond with him. Of course, she'd obliged without question. That much had been simple. This was going to be the most difficult part.
Sasuke,
Minato called out, his voice faltering.
come out here with me for a minute.
The boy stopped on the way to his and Naruto's bedroom and turned to Minato with a stolid expression. They sat on the step outside. The spacious backyard was overlooked by a night sky littered with shimmering stars. Minato dropped his hands to his knees and looked down at Sasuke, who sat in a withdrawn pose beside him. It was now or never.
So, what's this about?
Sasuke asked in a small voice. His eyes searched Minato's face. It was like he was looking for some hint of dishonesty or ill intent, much like at the funeral. Minato couldn't help but be reminded of the many young ninja in the war, whose innocent smiles gave way to similar expressions, right up until they either became efficient killing machines or died on the battlefield.
Don't worry,
Minato said, smiling up at the sky.
I just wanted to sit with you and talk. We're family now, after all. I would have done this earlier, but I thought it would have been better to give you your space while you settled in.
Oh, okay.
Sasuke continued to stare with suspicion.
I won't treat you like a child, Sasuke. After what you've gone through, I don't think that's fair to you.
He looked down at the boy again, doing his best to appear non-threatening and open.
I won't make you do anything you don't want to. And I'm not asking you to pretend your old life never happened. What I will do is believe in you. I promise that on my title of Hokage.
Sasuke stared open-mouthed.
If you decide that after all this, you'd rather leave the Ninja Academy, I can make that happen for you. If you'd like to continue, that's fine too. Like I said before, you can always talk to me about anything. Even more so now that you're my charge.
Sasuke looked towards the dew-swept grass, his lip poked out in sadness.
Your charge?
Huh? What is it?
Minato patted the boy on the back, craning his neck so that they were at eye level.
I didn't mean anything bad by that, I swear.
I told Lady Kushina at the hospital that I didn't want to be a bother,
Sasuke mumbled.
I'm just extra responsibility for you.
What? Sasuke, don't think...
Naruto doesn't even want me here, and he's right to. I really don't belong.
Sasuke curled his knees up against his chest.
Did Naruto say that to you?
Minato asked, a firmness in his voice now.
If he did, I'll talk to him.
No, but he doesn't have to. He's nice to me, but I can tell by the way he looks at me when he thinks I'm not watching that he pities me, just like everyone else at school does. Just like...
Sasuke gritted his teeth and glared at nothing. The same vacant stare he'd had at the funeral returned. His body may have been here, but his mind was somewhere else. Minato had a feeling he knew where.
Listen, Sasuke.
Minato waited for the boy to look at him.
Naruto's not used to having a brother. You'll have to understand that and give him time. He's a kind child. He'll come to accept you, just like Kushina and I have.
Sasuke didn't appear convinced, but he nodded and returned to staring into the distance. Minato decided to break the silence.
No one can hurt you here. Whatever happened to you won't happen again.
This seemed to set Sasuke off. He grunted and stood up.
Of course not. I don't have a second family to slaughter.
Hold on,
Minato said, raising a hand.
that isn't what I
never asked for any of this, you know? I accepted that I was just gonna be alone.
Sasuke,
I know the village doesn't want me around. Neither did my father, and neither does anyone here.
Sasuke withdrew into himself, shaken with emotion.
if I didn't want you here, I wouldn't have allowed my wife to adopt you.
Minato said matter-of-factly.
And I certainly wouldn't have fought through legal proceedings to make it happen. Sasuke, you're not to blame for any issues with the Uchiha. You're your own person, and someone who has been through a terrible loss.
He watched the boy take in his words, the anger fading from his eyes, settling back into his seat with a catatonic expression. Sasuke whispered,
Do you know what he told me?
Who?
Minato asked. He knew the answer before it was uttered.
Itachi.
Sasuke forced out, quaking as he said the name.
He told me all of this was just to test the extent of his own abilities. I tried to get away, but he found me. I thought I was gonna die just like everyone else. But he called me weak. He said I wasn't even worth killing yet, and that I had the potential to unlock the Mangekyo Sharingan, just like him.
Minato bit back his urge to interrupt, knowing this was a rare opportunity to get Sasuke to open up that might never happen again if he cut it off. Listening to this was difficult, given that Minato understood far more about the situation than Sasuke knew. Itachi had confided in him, and what he learned didn't track with what the youngest of Fukaku's boys was relaying now. There was no reason for the child to lie, which left a lingering question. Why had Itachi chosen to deceive his younger brother? If Minato's knowledge of the legacy of the Uchiha was anything to go by, he had a pretty good guess.
I was so scared, so angry. I was helpless. He told me if I wished to kill him for what he'd done, I should hate him, run, and cling to my wretched life.
The Hokage's gut twisted into a knot hearing the horrible things Itachi had said. All of this for the purpose of putting on a facade of insanity? What a terrible fate for either of the brothers to endure. Sasuke swallowed hard.
He said, one day, when you have the same eyes as I do now, come before me. And he told me that the way he got his Mangekyo was by killing his best friend, Shisui.
Minato's mouth went dry. Everything in him screamed to say something, anything to counter Sasuke's belief. But should he? It was hard to say. Sasuke knowing what really happened to Shisui or about anything related to Itachi's secrets could put him in greater danger in the future. However, it might also ease his current pain. Which was more important? Shisui the Teleporter's death was reported not long before the Uchiha massacre, when Itachi was still coordinating a plan with Minato. While the official story painted Itachi as the prime suspect in the case, the Genjutsu trip the Hokage went on after the funeral shed some new light on things. He had watched as Shisui entrusted the future of the leaf and his one remaining eye's power to Itachi. Shisui also named Danzo as the one responsible for stealing the missing eye, which provided the perfect explanation for why Minato lost his memory. It must have been the work of the deceased teen's famed jutsu, Koto Matsukami.
I'm sorry you went through all of that,
Minato said, patting Sasuke on the back again.
but I can at least tell you this much. Danzo Shimura is the one responsible for what happened to Shisui.
The buzzing and chattering of wildlife seemed to intensify in the stillness that followed, as Sasuke processed his words.
Wait, what did you just say?
You heard me right. Whatever Itachi may have told you about Shisui's passing, it was a lie. The village findings indicate Danzo is to blame.
It wasn't the whole truth, but it was something. Sasuke stared into Minato's eyes, waiting for something unspoken. Then he gulped and broke eye contact.
You're serious, aren't you?
Minato nodded.
I am.
Is that why he fled the village today?
Looking up at the sky, Minato shrugged.
Well, among other things.
He let the silence linger between them for a moment more.
I just want you to know that whatever your brother's done or said to you doesn't have to define you. You can set your own course in life. Your parents wouldn't have wanted the kind of life he described for you.
He paused when he noticed Sasuke shivering next to him. Minato reached out to comfort him, but he slung an arm backwards, knocking the gesture aside.
How could you know what they wanted?
Tears came to Sasuke's eyes.
How am I supposed to just forget all that? He killed everyone. Butchered them with his Mangekyo. He showed it to me in a Genjutsu. I can't just forsake my family and not avenge them, can I?
Minato sighed.
I don't have all the answers you seek, but I know one thing. You wouldn't be forsaking them by not going down such a dark path. You would be honoring their memory. Your father and I didn't always see eye to eye, but he had a noble presence. He upheld the honor of his clan in a way I always respected.
Sasuke quieted down again. Tears cascaded past his quivering lips. While Minato observed the boy, an epiphany struck him. There was a solution that might help Sasuke move past his trauma, even without him knowing the truths Itachi shared.
Like I said before, if you still want to be a ninja, then I'll support you in that. My wife and I both will. Same goes for Naruto and whatever choices he makes. You're our son now, but you're free to make your own decisions. One thing I will do as Hokage, though, is enroll you in private therapy sessions. There are some things going on in your head that are beyond my power to help with. Things only trained professionals can handle. Of course, you're free to stop these sessions of your own free will as well. But I hope you won't.
Taking a moment to breathe, Minato leaned back with his palms pressed against the deck and looked up at the star-speckled sky.
I can help you become strong, but I'd suggest you think about whether it's really worth using that strength for evil intentions. Personally, I believe it could be exactly like what happened with your clan, and that helps no one.
Sasuke nodded, seeming to take in the advice, however minimally, which brought his foster father some level of comfort.
Alright then,
Minato announced with a happier tone, bounding up to his feet.
I'm going to go back inside. If you don't want to come with me just yet, lock the door when you come in.
Pausing before leaving, he added,
I hope you'll think this over, Sasuke. And again, I'm sorry.
Given the volume of information he was still keeping from the boy, Minato couldn't help but feel that his apology was hollow. There was nothing more he could do for Sasuke right now. So, he left him alone with his thoughts. Wall-mounted candles illuminated the way through a network of underground tunnels. Danzo strolled along, trailing behind the man whose hospitality, as much as he hated to admit it, was to thank for his not being dead right now. The air swelled with dust particles, making breathing a conscious effort. A quick glance to either side reminded Danzo of the silent, watchful entourage Orochimaru had assigned to him. Closest to him was the slim figure and muted grey hair of Kabuto Yakushi. Once a trusted and exceptional Anbu operative, he was plucked fresh from the Leaf's Yakushi orphanage by Danzo himself. Then there were 4 other guards he'd never seen before. One was a man with 2 heads, the other had 6 arms, a red-headed woman and a larger man with a sparse amount of hair flanked Danzo on the right. Strange sights, the 4 of them were. If Danzo were honest, given that he was in a hideout organized by Orochimaru, this was probably nothing compared to the worst this place had to offer. The weight of young Kabuto's eyes on him reminded Danzo how tenuous the current agreement was. Even so, he couldn't help but laugh. It was a dry, lifeless chuckle that echoed through the cavernous corridor. His escort's footsteps ceased, and he could tell without looking that they had their guards up. Hairs raised on the back of Danzo's neck. He quieted the urge to reach for his concealed ninja tools. "What's so amusing?" Kabuto asked, repositioning a pair of black-framed glasses. His voice was syrupy, almost mocking in its calmness. There was a confidence in him Danzo had never seen during his early days as an Anbu agent. Unfazed, he met the smug subordinate's gaze with a thin-lipped smirk. "Oh, I was only thinking about how ironic this all is." "All of what?" "Kabuto, look at us. Both former citizens of the Leaf. Both hiding like dogs in the same snake-infested den. But in your case, you seem right at home being Orochimaru's lapdog." Danzo found immense pleasure in watching Kabuto's brow wrinkle in annoyance. Orochimaru raised a hand, drawing everyone's attention. The usual sly undertone in his voice made an unwelcome return.
Now, Danzo. Kabuto has proven to be a loyal subject of mine. Just like he once was to the Anbu. Don't antagonize him. If you two end up in a fight, you'll be amazed at just how far he's come as a ninja. I guarantee it.
Scoffing at the threat, Danzo rubbed the sleeve of his bound arm and muttered, "A boy like that, measuring up to me? Nonsense." They walked along, tensions high, for about another minute. Each of the uniformly designed wooden doors they passed bore no engravings, name tags, or symbols of any kind. How could Orochimaru possibly know his way around this place? At last they reached a room at the end of the hall. The door was ajar, providing a clear view of a spacious bedroom. A bed with a headboard composed of mirrored snake heads, a single chair, and a dresser adorned one side of the room. The other was bare, save for a tall candle holder providing just enough light.
Here we are, Danzo. This will be your room while you're staying with us.
Orochimaru motioned with a hand, stepping aside. Danzo huffed, declining the invitation to enter with a gesture.
It will do. Are you ready for the unsealing now?
The Sannin examined the markings on both of his guests' arms with a detached curiosity befitting scientists. His slit-like eyes traveled from the seal markings to Danzo's tapping foot and back again.
In due time. First of all, I need something from you.
The man let off a bone-rattling chuckle. A heavy groan reverberated down the hall as Danzo waited to hear what he suspected was coming all along.
All right, out with it. What's the catch, Orochimaru?
Their conversation was put on pause by the arrival of a handful of Anbu Root members, still donning their standard-issue white masks. Chief among them were Danzo's two youngest agents, Fu Yamanaka and Tarune Aburame. They knelt in front of him, joined by the other followers in the formation, and removed their masks. Fu's ginger hair was tied in a neat ponytail atop his head. Torune bore a second, more unconventional slate-grey mask underneath his Anbu one. It concealed the top half of his face, and was equipped with two circular lenses. Although still in training, both boys were skilled beyond their years.
Fu? Torune?
Danzo acknowledged with a nod.
Any sightings?
No, sir, Fu said. We secured the perimeter as you ordered. No search parties have found us.
And if they do, Torune added, my jutsu should handle any intruders.
Good, Danzo said. He turned back to his host.
Now, are we ready to...
Danzo,
Orochimaru said.
Hold on. We should make absolutely certain you weren't followed. Take these four along, just in case.
But Lord Orochimaru, the red-headed woman objected, stepping in her leader's direction. We can't leave you alone with him. The Sannin chuckled again.
Don't worry, my dear Tayoya. I'll have Kabuto by my side. Now go on. We have much to discuss. Don't we, Danzo?
His sly stare earned a miffed grunt from his guest.
Yes,
Danzo seethed. Keeping his emotions lidded took all the willpower in the world. He remembered his subordinates who were still kneeling as they awaited orders.
Go back out there and keep watch. Divert anyone you encounter off the trail of this hideout, no matter what it takes. Stay spread out, stay hidden. Understood?
A chorus of voices responded.
Yes, sir!
Fu and Torune donned their disguises once more. The group of followers, including Orochimaru's four servants, formed synchronized hand signs.
Everyone!
Danzo interrupted.
Don't forget that if you're hit with a flying Thunder God seal, you are to end your lives. Under no circumstances do you return to this location.
The odds that the Hokage would come along on the mission to find him were slim, but it couldn't hurt to be thorough. Everyone nodded, and the four guards and Danzo's Anbu detail vanished in a spectacular burst of smoke. After they were gone, he said,
Can we please get on with this already?
Of course.
Orochimaru smirked.
As you may have already guessed, my plans primarily concern the leaf.
Danzo blew out a breath, none too surprised.
I will need to build up a more powerful force in order for what I have in mind to be successful. That's where you come in.
Is that so? What exactly do you have in mind, then?
It involves both the former Hokage.
A glint appeared in Orochimaru's eyes.
As a condition of using my hideout to evade capture, I want you to help me defeat them and crush the hidden leaf.
He licked his lips and his face twisted into a demented smile. Danzo ground his teeth, maintaining eye contact. There was a crispness in the air as the two men assessed one another.
The Sound is but a fledgling village at the moment,
Orochimaru went on, dismissing his shrewd guest's glare.
But we will indeed make our move. When that time comes, Danzo, you'll be key to my plans.
And what makes you think I'll agree to something like this?
Tracking a blur of movement, Danzo shifted in time to parry an outstretched arm that sliced through the air, buzzing with dense chakra. He followed the glowing hand back to its source, the young man named Kabuto. His steadfast gaze held a quiet intelligence that had shone through even in his days of piteous orphanhood. The naive innocence that once graced those eyes was long gone, no doubt snuffed out by his experiences as a spy for the Anbu. Kabuto had become what Danzo always believed he could. He was an efficient killing machine. Under any other circumstances, the Leaf Elder might have been impressed.
I highly suggest you think twice before raising a hand to me, boy,
Danzo growled, shoving Kabuto away, only to discover that he'd interlocked his other arm in an attempt at a grapple. Neither gave an inch. They stood in a static pose for several seconds that passed like hours. Kabuto sneered. I sensed your intent to harm Lord Orochimaru. I won't allow that. Danzo swept Kabuto's legs, forcing him to loosen his hold and flip backwards. The young man took care to check that his glasses weren't askew once he was back on his feet. Orochimaru watched the interaction in amused silence.
I was planning no such thing,
Danzo said, giving the irksome lackey a healthy dose of side-eye.
I simply don't care for this arrangement.
I thought you might say that,
Orochimaru admitted, throwing up his hands.
That's why I came up with a contingency plan. I have terms that might make you more agreeable, if you'll follow me.
He led the way down a branching hallway, with a crooked smile on his face. Thank you all for indulging yourselves in the story thus far. I hope you've enjoyed it. Now, there are a few more things that I'd like to go over before the video ends. Firstly, we've got a primary channel called We the Celestials. We the Celestials is what we do here already, but their content is centered around the crazy world and lore of My Hero Academia. So please, check us out over there if you're feeling in the mood for a roller coaster of quirky content. We also have another relative to our channel, Anime Deep Dive. Anime Deep Dive goes deep into the facts and lore of a wide variety of anime. It's guaranteed to expand your weeb knowledge of all kinds of series. On behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description below. If you're perhaps interested in what we do here at WTC, then I would like to extend an invitation to join the team. Our only caveat being that we only accept members 16 and older to join our crew. You can find us on our Discord, which you can locate in the description below. Our Discord is an all-around fantastic place to be. Whether you're a fan or looking to join our band of misfits, all you gotta do is hit up the recruitment server and sign up for whichever category of work fulfills your interests. We're always looking for members to join us. Well, that's it for today's video, so thank you all for watching and have a great day.